Hello there and thanks for watching. My name's David Walker. I paint watercolour tutorials and this is one of a beautiful stormy sunset over the way from me at the back in Tywyn, North Wales. The first lesson starts right at the end of this sped up promotional video, so if you fancy having a go, have a look. Really is, or was, a spectacular sight, as you can see. That's after it dried and just put a few finishing touches. And there's the finished pic. We're going to do a nice stormy sunset over the sea. Nice and simple. I'll run you right the way through it step by step. I've got my paint brush, my 7-colour palette, which is Payne's Grey, Alizarin Crimson, Burnt Sienna, Raw Sienna, Lemon Yellow, Ultramarine Blue and Raw Umber. Piece of A3 size Bockingford, which is a good sized piece of paper, so we can have lots of fun with it. And the first thing I'm going to do is stick the paper down onto my board so that when I put loads of water on it, which we do in these exercises, it'll cockle but it'll flatten out, and this tape will keep it in place really. If you've done one of my courses before, you've seen exactly what I do with the paper, but if you've never seen one before, it's just a case. A lot of people do tend to stretch the paper first by putting just clean water on it and letting it dry. I don't really see the point in that because we're going to wet it anyway, so we might as well wet it with our first wash. So we'll stick it down. Got a nice clean plate ready to go and nice clean water. And as you know, in this course we're only going to use our H brush. That's the only brush we're going to use. The whole point is that, you remember when you were children, you just used to get a load of paint and a brush and enjoy yourself. Well, basically we want to go back to that feeling. Now the watercolour painting of the sky we're going to do, it's kind of like going to happen as we go along. I've not got any reference material. We've all seen sunsets, haven't we? There is a way to do it and a way not to do it, and hopefully I'll show you the right way to do it. And the first thing we want to do is get some nice clean water, and we're going to have blue in this area, and it's going to fade into loads of clouds coming up, bubbling up sort of thing, and then we'll have the sun hidden. We're not going to make a point of the sun, we'll have it hidden behind the clouds, but we'll have all the colours associated with it, you know, nice reds and oranges around this area. So let's get some clean water on our page. Just put that across nice and gently. Just wet the paper. And the first thing we'll do is take out some ultramarine blue. You notice we use the tubes. They last for ages and they're a lot easier to use in my mind. You can be a lot freer with it. It's fine if you want to do tiny little pictures to use the pans, but I like to do big bold pictures. So let's make up a nice light wash of blue to start with. Just make sure you get all the colour mixed into the water when you do this, and make enough to cover the area you want to cover. And then it's just a case, let's get it on the page. I'll just bring it down to about there. So it's kind of like you doing that third of the picture, isn't it? at the top, just make it a little bit thicker. Like that. Okay, and then this area I'm going to start off with raw sienna, which is like it's a nice kind of yellowy brown, but it's not too thick, so where we actually put it we can take it off as well quite easily. I've got a big handful of kitchen towel as well, and that's to mop up as we need to. So clean the brush properly, then make another good wash of raw sienna. See that colour? It's lovely yellowy brown colour. And we're going to have, the sun's going to be around about there. We're going to put the sea just basically about 1.5 inches at the bottom. So if we just paint that down to about 1.5 inches, 2 inches from the bottom. Try and make sure that this line is straight when you do it, because obviously it's the horizon line, isn't it? And I want to keep this moving. Now you say the blue straight away has decided to run into there. Well, that's always going to happen. But what we're actually doing at this stage is just getting an idea of the start of our picture. And you can also just run that along there as well. Alright, so that's our basis down. Now, what I want to do now, while we've got the colours on there, is just get an idea of where I want the clouds to be. And what we do for that, we use this tissue. See, it's already started to dry. Don't worry about that. So what I've just put on, just now, I'm taking a fair bit of that off. The clouds are gonna sort of come towards us. It's going to change a heck of a lot as we go. That's the beauty of using watercolours. But you see I'm making them smaller now, the clouds, just taking out little bits. And these clouds are flickering away into the above our heads, if you like. Take that out. And that's our basis for our drawing now. For our painting. It's kind of like a drawing, isn't it? Now while this is still wet, I want to get plenty of lemon yellow in there, and alizarin crimson. These are our starting points, our colours to start with. Before I start adding these colours, I'll just let that run a little bit. And also I've just thought there, actually, I'll take some more of that out and put some more blue down there. Let it mix on the page. Keep my brush wet. And I can also make these clouds run into each other more using clean water. And then I'm going to get a good dollop of this lemon yellow, and the sun is round about there, so So let's get that mixing on the page straight away. So there's no messing about, it's get on with it. I want all these colours to mingle. Clean my brush, just make that a little bit more fluid, and at this point I'm even going to go into my alizarin crimson and let that mix on the page. So we've determined that the sun's behind the clouds there, so it's going to be a bright spot, that, and that's going to cause the beautiful colours along the horizon as well. Just keep going over. And now what we can do is I'll turn off, no I won't, I'm going to keep with it, I'm going to stick with it, because it's one of those things, a sunset, that you really have to kind of go at it. Now what I want to do now is, right in the distance along the horizon, there's going to be some little tiny clouds. So using the tissue, I'll just allow that to take it out randomly. So all this comes apparent, you know, as it dries. And then once again, I'll just make some lighter bits around here, and then just clear my plate, because I don't want these colours mixing on their own too much on the plate. I'm going to go for Payne's Grey, which is a really nice colour. Lots of blue in the grey, in the Payne's Grey. So it's kind of like, it loves the blue. It loves to mix with the blue. Now this area, it's really a cloudy, you know, a stormy area. So I'm going to use the Payne's Grey. Quite thick. Like I say, this is going to be our sun. So if we just apply this is the cloud that's covering the sun, and making its way up into, over, like I said before, over our heads. Don't let that go there, just keep that in check with my tissue. Then over into the distance again. Alright, so I've put the colour on. Now I want to just take some of that off, because we're working kind of negatively, aren't we? You know, we've got to think how it's going to look when it's finished up. And the white bits, the lighter bits, because we work light to dark in watercolour, but the lighter bits are easier to get at this point. So we've got plenty of colour on there, and that's basically what I was aiming to do, get you put loads of colour on. And we've got our outline really now. So once again, I'm going to go for these distant marching clouds that are in front of the storm, but they're a long way out to sea. My hake's doing a bit of a molt at the moment, so let's get rid of all these hairs. Some more Payne's grey. Just mix that with the blue. And emphasise the fact that that's where the cloud, the kind of storm is happening. What you've got to remember with watercolour as well is that it dries a heck of a lot lighter. So you put it on dark like this and it'll dry a lot lighter. Just put a few little bits in front of the sun. Now it's really started doing things on its own now. Actually, I don't think this is one of those demos where you can stop the film. It's a case of carrying on with it. What I will do shortly though is stop the film to go and clean my water. Now I'm putting some clean water into all that I've put on, so it runs even more. And now I want this to come pretty well down to the horizon. And then I'm going to be really brave, clean my brush, get some really nice deep red, and this is where we want the sunset effect to start occurring around here. Mixing into that in the horizon. Alright, so it looks quite dramatic at the moment. Now let's just start moving it around a little bit and keep your eye on it as it moves, because it will do all sorts of things. And there's a heck of a lot of water on there, as you can see. And what I want you to do is relax while you're doing this, because that's the whole point of these exercises, is to enjoy the colour going on the paper. And again, now that your tissue is a little bit damp, you find it easier to take out the colour. See that? I'm just touching it now. These wispy clouds that are covering the sunset. I've got all sorts of hake hairs, but it really doesn't matter because they'll come off. See, the sun, we've said, is there, so it's actually the rays of the sun are going to be above there as well, around this area. So all that we've put on, now we're just stopping too much happening and taking it out for the clouds. We'll just want to relieve this because this is quite a nice light area, this will be. So it's always a case of putting your colour on and then taking your colour off in the correct procedure. Right, can you see how these colours are mixing themselves on the page? And at the moment, like I said before, it looks like we've got a little bit of a mess going on. But what I want you to do while you're doing this exercise is just to enjoy what happens. You know, we've got loads of colour on the page. Just try and enjoy it. Too many people are too finicky with, you know, with the colours, thinking, oh, I'm wasting my colours. Well, you're not. You're learning all the time, aren't you? Let's just put a few more little clouds in the distance. That's the effect I want to keep, these little clouds running across the horizon. And they will do once it's dry. Now, still while it's wet we'll carry on, I think. The water's not gone muddy at all at the moment, so we're alright. And using lemon yellow and alizarin crimson, we've got a nice orange colour there, and this is like the colour I want in this area. And I'm dropping it, trying just to miss out where I've dabbed, you know, where I took out the clouds. Try not to cover the clouds again. But where it goes on the page now, it'll be where we took out the red, the grey and everything. It'll be a nice orange colour. And that'll do its own thing. Because this is the kind of sunset area, and this will be the cloud, you know, the storm coming in. And then above, like we said, the sun's kind of showing its little effects above the clouds here as well. And then once again, where that area is there that we decided was the sun, let's just see what happens if we put a really, just try and miss out off the grey. Let that run into there. And then again, up in this area, which is now drying out, the first wash we put on now is pretty dry, so we need to be careful when we put colour onto that. What I'm not happy with, just thinking about it, is this. It's dried very dark, so we can take that back out again, and we'll do that later when it's dried. And what I'm going to do is turn off. Before I do that, I'll just take these little bits off for now. They're not quite working. A little bit early on though. You know, that bit of sunlight going above needs to be when it's dried properly. And the same here. Just take out where it's muddying. That's what we're doing now. We're keeping our eye on things and just making sure there's not parts going to get muddy. Just taking parts out. And this here is going to dry too dark, so you can move that along the horizon. You can see that. So all the colours moving along because it's still wet. But I've got some lovely colours making themselves here. And back again. This is also, it doesn't puddle in one particular place. You need to keep your eye on your washers all the time as they're drying. See, these are bleaching out quite nicely as a distant sunset running off your page, but that doesn't matter. Just keep an eye on it and dab that up, and then where that big puddle is there, just keep it in check. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is turn off and go and clean my water. My plate's fine, but I do need some clean water. So I'll be back in probably 5 minutes. I'm not going to let it dry too much. So I'll see you in the next lesson.